Hey there, third through fifth grade teachers. So this is the Just in Time for Science. The unit we're going to be looking at is forms of energy with a focus on circuits. So you can see the three TEKs that I have listed on the screen. So we've got for third grade, we have 3.6a, explore different forms of energy, including mechanical, light, sound, and thermal energy in everyday life. 4.6c, demonstrate that electricity travels in a closed path, creating an electrical circuit. And then 5.6b, demonstrate that the flow of electricity in closed circuits can produce light, heat, and sound. So the first thing that we decided was kind of to go through this with a backward design mindset. So we're going to be shifting into the TEK breakdown for you here. So you can see we've got the three TEKs listed out here, and then we've broken them down into separate components with the verb, the context, which is how the concept is taught, the transition words, the content, which is what is actually taught, and then any essential vocabulary that gets pulled from that. And we'll get into the vocabulary here in just a little bit as well. So you can see just by looking at the screen, the different breakdowns of this. The two grade levels, fourth and fifth grade, they have the same verb, as you can see, demonstrate. And then 3.6a, it is a little bit different of a TEK, but it does lead into the circuit work as they get up into those upper grade levels. So for third grade, let's go ahead and look at that one. We have explored different forms of energy, including mechanical, light, sound, and thermal in everyday life. So our verb here is explore. So how we're going to be exploring this verb is we're going to be looking at mechanical, light, sound, and thermal in everyday life. And these are all the different forms of energy. So that's the what here. So our essential vocabulary listed is the words that you see here. And then feel free to also add any terms that you think that are useful to be going through with students that maybe they don't have a lot of background knowledge on, and they need help kind of getting that to get started on this actual unit. 4.6c, we have demonstrate that electricity travels in a closed path, creating an electrical circuit. Our verb here is demonstrate. So how we're going to be demonstrating this is creating an electrical circuit. And we do that, the what is electricity travels in a closed path. And so we get to see this electricity travel in a closed path by creating electrical circuits. So that's kind of like where that TEK kind of circles back to it. And then again, we've got the vocabulary listed at the bottom there. 5.6b, demonstrate that the flow of electricity in closed circuits can produce light, heat, and sound. So you can see there's a little bit more of a building onto that concept here in this one. So we've got demonstrate again, the flow of electricity in closed circuits can produce light, heat, and sound. So the idea here is that if it's not a closed circuit, it's not going to create those things. So this is where we really, in the upper grade levels, benefit a lot from the hands-on opportunity, and then any videos we can see where there's like troubleshooting of why circuits aren't lighting up, or why they might be lighting up in the different bulbs if you're using multiple. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit more. All right, so this next one is the vocabulary. Now, I did take this directly off of the unit plans from the ARC, but what I did here was I gave you guys an example of how to interact with this. So what I did, I linked it here, and then you'll see it's the same slide deck, but it's linked to every single grade level so that you can't miss where this actually is. So third grade vocabulary is in orange. Fourth grade is in yellow, and then fifth grade is in this teal blue color. So the idea basically is that third grade gets to kind of see where they're going to be building up to in fourth and fifth grade. Fourth grade should see what's covered in third grade, and they should still be going over these terms because this is background knowledge. And then they also get to see what they teach up to with fifth grade. And then fifth grade also gets to see what's coming in, that background knowledge that's coming in. So all of those terms should be gone over with the students. So what I did here, if you're not familiar with a Freyer model, so we've got the vocabulary term, the definition in a student-friendly version, and then a picture provided. So what I would do here if I was teaching this, I would not front load this vocabulary necessarily, but there might be some lessons where you do need to do that. And so what you could do is front load the vocabulary, and then once you've taught the lesson, come back as kind of either a formative assessment or just a check-in with the students and have them use that word in a sentence now that they've had some hands-on experience with it. And so as you go through each of these different words, you can kind of see which ones might be good ones to front load as you do your different investigations with your students, and what words might be words that are good for them to kind of go through after they've had that hands-on experience so that they have that knowledge already set in place. So that's the vocabulary. The next thing that's in this slide deck is there are 3 anticipation guides. This is something that as a teacher I would do before learning. As you can see here, have the students do this. It's a pre-assessment just to kind of see like where they are with these concepts and what knowledge they have going into this. We put this on a white background just so it would be easy for you to print off and use in your class. There is also the option of just having this up on the board for the students, or on your screen, my apologies, and having them just kind of like fill this out and go back to it. The thing about that is that they're not getting to see this after learning piece that I'll go into here in just a little bit. But you can see 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's the same exact setup, but there are different statements for 3rd. 4th has different because it is about circuits, and then 5th actually builds on to that. And so again, we've kept the background white for you to print this off. So the idea is that before learning, they are putting whether they agree or disagree with the statement after reading it. And then after they have had that hands-on experience or after the learning, what I would generally have my students go back and do is I would have them agree or disagree with the statement. They are not allowed to change their before learning statement because this is where the learning occurs. So they are going to either put agree or disagree. If they disagree with the statement after learning, what I encourage them to do is go back into the statement and correct what is incorrect. That way I can also see that, yes, they do know that it's an incorrect statement, but they know why. So those are the anticipation guides, which again is a pre-assessment for your students. And then this is actually from a Paige Keeley book. And this is uncovering student ideas in science. So 3rd grade, this would not apply to your grade level. This would be a little bit more rigorous than what your students would be asked to do with their TEK. So this would apply to 4th and 5th grade. What's really great about this is it's a very simple setup, and you can kind of get a general idea. And this might be a brainstorm for the students before they actually get into the hands-on, where they can kind of map out what's going to create a successful circuit. So I'm going to read through this with you. It's called Batteries, Bulbs, and Wires. Kirsten has a battery and a small bulb. She wonders how many strips of wire she will need to connect the battery and bulb so the bulb will light. What is the smallest number of wire strips Kirsten needs to make the bulb light up? And so then students will choose what they imagine, and it has a little box for them to actually like draw their circuit out, which is really great thinking for them to do before they even actually start building circuits together. And then off to the side, it says, explain your thinking about how to light the bulb and draw a picture to support your explanation. Okay, and then so here we have the Frayer model linked just so that you can kind of get a general idea of like how I filled this in. We've also provided sentence stems as you are going through this unit. These are some things that as you get students to turn and talk, or maybe you're having them do a write in science or a debrief at the end of a hands-on experiment, these are some different things that you could actually provide for them, some sentence stems, so that they could actually, reflect on their learning as well. These come straight from the lessons and the unit plan from the ARC. All right, so what we did here was we tried to pair a video with some STAR-tested questions as well. And the STAR-tested questions come from the assessment bank before I get to those, but just so you guys can kind of see the connecting piece here. So here's a video that we provided for you guys about types of energy. This video is 7 minutes long, so just be prepared for that. If you were to show this to your students, it is a little bit longer. However, if it's something that you're wanting to do to just kind of gain your knowledge on how to teach this concept, that is there for you as well. But it is a very beneficial video for you to show to your students. Directly following that, we do have multiple choice questions here. So there's 4 provided for you guys. Again, this is on a white background because we thought this would be a really great opportunity for you to maybe print this off and this becomes like a check-in with your students, a CFA. And then down here in the notes, this is the assessment bank, item bank, sorry, that I've got the questions from. And then I've also linked here for you the DCA that's in Performance Matters. This is the code right here, for in English and in Spanish for this particular DCA. I would highly suggest, if you are not in the habit of going through and looking at that DCA before starting the unit, that is a really great opportunity for you to see the rigor and depth in which the content needs to be taught, in order for students to really, really understand the concept and apply it. So moving forward here, we have our 4th grade, and this is where we just get into circuit basics. And again, this is a very simple video here. It's a really great video. This one is 5 minutes long, just to give you a heads up on that one. And then again, we've got questions that are following, and we've linked the assessment item bank here, which is where the questions came from, as well as the DCA in English and in Spanish with the codes. So there are 2 questions listed here, and then there are some more to follow. So we've labeled it right up here in the top. And then we get into 5th grade. So just know that the circuit basics, my apologies, goes with 4th and 5th grade. But it's just to reintroduce this concept to the 5th graders, but maybe introduce for the first time to the 4th graders. So then we get into our 5th grade STAR-like questions. So again, just as before, the assessment item bank is linked down here, as well as the DCAs in English and Spanish, with their codes. All right. So these are some of the multiple choice questions that apply to this. Just so students are really, like, the important thing about this, I think students really get an opportunity to see different circuits and kind of like troubleshoot why they might be lighting, the bulb might be lighting up, or the energy flow can actually like occur, or why it's not actually happening. I feel like that is one of the most difficult concepts. All right, and then what we did here was we directly linked. So it has a question here that basically applies. This guy is here in the state of Texas. If you're not familiar with him, this is Mr. Haney, and he actually takes our standards, our TEKs, and he teaches a video, or he does a video hands-on directly from that TEK. And so these are really amazing videos. He explains it and breaks it down really well, and they're really short. So 1 minute and 33 seconds for this one. And this one is all about understanding the different components of a circuit. You'll see here shortly, we're about to get into more of his videos. So we've got another question that's linked from the DCA. And then we've got 2 more videos. One of them is from Mr. Haney. And this one, let me get you the time, is 1 minute and 50 seconds. So this one's Understanding Circuits number 3. The one we had seen before, I believe this one is number 2 or number 4. And then this one up here, Analyzing Circuits. So this one's 5 minutes, so it's a little bit longer, but it does go through series versus a parallel, which I think is a very important concept for us to really hone in with our students. This next page is a super important page, and I'm going to circle back to some of these videos and talk a little bit more in depth here shortly. But this is kind of some circuits in action. The breakdown of these 2 videos, these are probably really, really great videos that I would even recommend, like, as a teacher, what I would probably do is have the students have a day of hands-on with the actual like building of circuits, series and parallel for 5th grade, and really understand some of those like components of what makes up a circuit, what allows the energy to flow. If your students are getting frustrated day 1, that's okay. It's good for them to have productive struggle in this unit, especially because they really need to problem solve and troubleshoot through what's happening and why things aren't working. Day 2 is where I might show these videos, because it does show them how to troubleshoot what might be going wrong, why your bulb isn't lighting up, and then different ways that you can actually troubleshoot that. Something also that's really great, if you haven't started using gizmos, and I'm actually going to click into this so that you can see, and I want to show you how to go through this. I might actually do this with my students and just kind of play around at first, and then have them go through and play with it on their own as well. But what's really cool about this is that it gives very basic components and materials, and they can just kind of play around with this. And you might even do this if you're somewhat hesitant to get out materials and be actual hands-on with circuits. Maybe do this first with them so that they get the experience of what components go into building a circuit. And then when they actually get those materials in front of them, it's a little bit easier as far as the management side of things. So a typical circuit, let's just build like a series one. So a series circuit, we have our battery, which is our power source. And then we've got some wires here. So it could be very, very, very simple. And then we have a light bulb. And then let's complete our circuit. So we make a complete path here. And then what we could do, just simply add a switch in. And so show the students how this turns on and off. This is where we can actually get into conductors and insulators, which is also vocabulary terms that are in 4th and 5th grade. And so you could actually start talking to the students about the difference between an insulator and a conductor and start putting them into these circuits so that the students can actually see the difference of what happens when we put in an insulator versus when we put in a conductor. Then you could get even more advanced with this if you wanted to build a parallel circuit. So let me take this switch out here. And we're going to build through. We'll go this way. This is what's really fun about this. You just kind of get to play with it and figure out what's going on. So it says short circuit detected, red loop, warning, results may not be valid if short circuit is present. So let's see what happens when we put a switch in here. So when we put a switch in, you can see I turn it on and it's connected to both of them actually, which is really great. So let's move this light bulb over here. And put the switch over here. And then let's disconnect. There we go. So you can see we've got a parallel circuit here, but we can see that the energy is not flowing through. So what's really great about this, as I said before, is that kids get an opportunity really to just kind of play around with this. And I would even encourage, if you have the time as a class, to go through this together and just kind of see like, what do you guys suggest? What happens here when we do this? Because there's no really way to like mess up the circuit here. And so kids get an opportunity to explore. So I just wanted to show you guys how to go through that. Okay, let me go back to this. And so then the final slide that I wanted to show you guys is just some resources. So we've got our 3rd grade resources here, 4th grade resources, and then 5th grade. And again, these are listed at the bottom of the unit plans. So let me go back up through here just to kind of go through this with you guys a little bit more in depth. So again, with these different videos, the idea here was that we are providing kind of a video to go with the different questions that are Starlight questions, and we pulled these again straight from this item bank that is listed here below. I'm trying to make sure that there's nothing else I wanted to touch on with you guys. As far as these videos, what I really like about them, so I'm going to go in to show you real quick. So this is great because it goes through vocabulary. And then it also talks about what happens and why certain lights light up and certain ones, or why it won't light up, what happens when you put a switch in there. Go into this one so you guys can see this one. So she shows a simple circuit first here, and then she shows a parallel with a circuit or switch added in as well. So this is really great in that it kind of shows like what we were just doing with the gizmos, where we played around a little bit with it. And I would highly suggest doing things like that with your students, just because it shows them just kind of the different ways that they can play with them to show like the upping the resistance and lowering the resistance. Those are some vocabulary terms that you guys can talk about in the 5th grade. And so you can go into that. And then again, just reinforcing those conductors and insulator vocabulary. And I think that is it. We look forward to you guys being able to utilize this going into your unit. Again, I want to remind you that we do have the session for the Q&A for Just in Time next week. Please feel free to join that. That is next Tuesday. And there has been an email sent out, and the links for the Google Meet is provided. Mr. Little, Askia Little, will be actually there answering questions for you guys. My name is Liz Kelly. I'm one of the instructional coaches here in Round Rock. And if you do have any questions or if you have any feedback about this Just in Time, I would encourage you, please reach out to me. And I welcome any feedback you guys have. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.